Have you ever found it difficult to create engaging Instagram reels? I know that I definitely have, and I've really struggled to grab people's attention with them in the past. However, since posting regularly over the last few years, I've definitely found there's a few points that have really helped me when creating engaging Instagram reels. So in today's video, I'm going to go through some different ways to make your Instagram reels more engaging. And hopefully some of these tips will help you out if you're struggling to make Instagram reels that capture people's attention. So I will be the first to say that creating Instagram reels that are engaging is a difficult thing to do, and it can be especially difficult if you're just starting out with reels. A couple of years ago, I had to start my travel Instagram account, Kaylee Journeys, again from the start because I unfortunately got hacked, which was really sad, and I could no longer use my older travel account. So starting again from scratch was really difficult, and even starting reels, because at that time I hadn't been posting a lot of Instagram reels. So it took me a while to really understand what reels were and really how to navigate with posting them, creating them, making them look good. But for those of you who are new here, my name is Kaylee and I'm a beauty and fashion photographer based near Sydney, Australia. But I'm also a content creator, and I started this channel a few years ago to talk about all things business, social media, freelancing, and content creation. And as I mentioned, today we're going to be going through some ways that you can make your Instagram reels more engaging. I think a lot of people with photography and video think that if you're a photographer, you can just switch over to video, and if you're a videographer, you just switch over to photo, and it's really easy to do. But for me, I think it took me a while to really get the hang of Instagram reels. I mean, I've been used to making YouTube videos for about 8 years at that point, but even still it was very different, and trying to capture people's attention with short form content is so different to even doing videos for YouTube like I'm doing now. So that really took me a while to get my head around, and when I finally realized that people were just not going to stick around the same way that they would on YouTube for longer periods of time, they're not going to stick around to kind of see content that's not worth their time. They're just going to scroll on, and it's that easy. And it did take me a while to realize that, but when I did realize that, I felt that there was definitely things I had to change about the way I was doing some of my reels. So in saying that, let's jump straight into these points about how I think you can make your reels more engaging and capture people's attention a little bit better. So my first tip is to use a hook or intriguing statement. And by intriguing statement, this can be a little bit controversial, it can be something that's really relatable. Whatever it is, just remember to keep it interesting. So there's so many ways that you can start off with hooks and really capturing people's attention that way. I've mentioned this before in some videos, but starting off a voiceover or potentially using text on the screen of the reel by saying like, did you know, I wish I'd known, I can't believe. Using some of those beginnings to sentences can really help people to stop what they're doing, stop scrolling, and actually read or listen. So I think this tip is a definite, especially for reels where they're more of a B-roll kind of video and you're just putting pretty images on the screen. If you're not doing a vlog, for example, or maybe more of an educational video that might be a little bit longer on Instagram reels, I definitely think, especially for the videos that are not that type of content, inserting a hook can really help capture people's attention that little bit more. As I said, you can make this hook or statement a little bit more controversial if you need to, but obviously making sure it is relevant to the niche that you are creating content for as well. Now, my next tip to make your Instagram reels more engaging is to add a voiceover. I think adding voiceovers are a great way to add a little bit more personality into your reels. Again, capturing people's attention a little bit more by speaking at the beginning of the reels so they slow down and maybe listen to you. It also gives you the chance to be really animated, where obviously if you're doing this in text, it's going to be a lot more difficult to try and do that. So being really able to capture people's attention with a voiceover can be a lot easier in that way. I've mentioned this before on my channel too with adding a voiceover, but I think this really works well with a lot more educational content and even content where you just want to be that little bit more informative for whatever topic you're talking about. Adding voiceovers, again, add a little bit more personality, but also really allow you to teach people a little bit better rather than just having lines upon lines of text on an Instagram reel. If there's too many lines of text and not enough of an engagement factor with your reel, a lot of people will just keep on scrolling. They won't even stop. So I really think adding a voiceover in every now and then is a great way to kind of try and capture people's attention, but also add a little bit more personality and engagement that way into your reels. Now, my third tip I feel is a really important one for creating more engaging Instagram reels, and that is to keep the length of the reel in mind. Whenever you're creating an Instagram reel, make sure that it's an appropriate length of time for the type of content you're posting. I see this all too often with newer creators on Instagram, and they will create Instagram reels that are like a minute long, and this may just be like a simply aesthetic reel with pretty photos and some music behind it. And unfortunately, if it's going to be that long and that's all that's going on in the reel, unfortunately it's just just not going to capture people's attention enough, they will keep scrolling. And I really have seen this happen all too often. In fact, I'm pretty sure even some of my first reels were probably like well over 30, 40 seconds long, and they were really just pretty images. So I think to get away from that, we need to remember that, again, attention spans on short form platforms like Instagram and TikTok are short. So you really want to make sure you are getting people's attention in the first couple of seconds of your reel. And then you're obviously trying to find ways to keep their attention. But one of those ways you can keep their attention to the end is making sure that, again, your reel is an appropriate length of time for the type of content you're posting. So for example, if it's a vlog in reel format that you're posting, you can have a little bit more liberty to go a bit longer with these types of videos. You can have videos that go past that 30-second, 40-second mark and that can still capture people's attention, because depending on what you're doing on the vlog, and obviously depending on the way that you edit it, you can still have the opportunity to make it quite engaging. Again, voiceovers can also be used in this way to create slightly longer reels, although I wouldn't do it for too long, because if you're doing like a 50-second long video with a voiceover, it may not always translate well. Just depends on the type of content or the imagery that you're producing as well, and even what you're talking about. Sometimes people may tune out from those kinds of videos too for being too long. But having said that, you can make them a little bit longer than your typical aesthetic reels. And so in terms of those aesthetic reels that I've been talking about, so this is kind of like B-roll reels where you're just kind of putting pretty images to music. I would say anything around 10 seconds and under is good for that. Anything longer than 10 seconds without much more engaging factors like a voiceover or vlogging or anything to kind of keep you engaged in the reel could be really difficult to capture people's attention for much longer than 10 seconds. I've always found that 10 seconds and under is a really good sweet spot for that. Obviously there can be exceptions with this, and not every video, like I said, is going to fall into this category, but overall in my experience of posting a lot of these types of reels over the last couple of years, I do find that aesthetic ones, really anything longer than 10 seconds doesn't tend to capture people's attention too much. Just remember that Instagram is a short form platform, so shorter videos can be more engaging for people on this platform. If you're really looking to do much longer videos, and if you're looking to do much longer short form style content, obviously places like TikTok is really good for that, because that's what it's kind of been built upon. So you will find that those kinds of videos tend to perform pretty well over there, depending again, of course, what you're talking about, what the topic is, what your niche is. But in general, TikTok tends to have a lot more longer sort of short form content. Instagram, I tend to find you keep it that little bit shorter. The next tip to make your reels more engaging is to really consider the type of music that you're applying to your reel. So this goes for any type of content, whether you're doing a voiceover, whether you're doing a vlog, making sure, especially on those kinds of videos, that the music isn't too loud and it's kind of drowning your voice out. But also on the aesthetic reels that I've been speaking about, it's really important to get the right vibe with the music you're using. Don't just go and use a trending audio just because it's trending on a reel that you just feel like it doesn't mesh well with, or the images don't mesh well with the music. This is a really important factor to keeping people's attention on those kinds of reels, because if you do an aesthetic reel where the imagery is great and the music's not, and it just doesn't fit at all, the results are just not going to be as great. If the music really does mesh well with the imagery and it suits the vibe of everything, and you just kind of nail that, it really will help people become more engaged in your reel. And emotionally, I feel like that connects them a little bit more to your reel too and engages them. And I think a good thing to remember is sometimes the music that we liked isn't always the right music that will go with the kinds of images or clips that you're trying to mesh with. So I do quite often see this happen with newer creators on Instagram, where they just choose music that they like to put to their images or reels. And you know, sometimes it's just like not as effective as just finding that right vibe song that is going to mesh perfectly with that imagery. And my final tip on how to make Instagram reels more engaging, and technically this isn't really to do with the reel itself, but make sure to fill in the caption properly. And I'm stressing this because so many people do not do this, and it means that you're losing out on part of that engaging factor. I always find when I'm looking through reels, if you've done enough in the reel to keep me engaged, I'm gonna look at the caption as well. And even better, if that caption is filled in properly, if it is really complementing the reel that's been posted and the creator's really spilling their thoughts about it, or really creating a conversation about the reel, I think it's a really powerful way to keep people engaged with your reel. I also think it's a really underrated way to get people engaged with your reels, because as I've said, so many people do not even bother with filling in the captions. A lot of the time it's just like an emoji or a couple of hashtags and that's it. Keep people engaged. Try try and create a conversation, try and get people engaged with your reel in as many ways as possible. And this is definitely one of those ways that I've found has really helped with people engaging on my reels and actually commenting, creating conversations, is if I make sure I start that in the caption. So definitely don't forget to fill that in, because it's another way that you can really make your Instagram reels overall very engaging. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video today and learned something new from it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, make sure you do, because I'll be posting a lot more in future. Let me know down in the comments section below if you found any specific ways to create really engaging Instagram reels, because I'd love to hear from you. Also, let me know how your Instagram growth is going. I always love hearing your thoughts and your stories down in the comment section below. Make sure to hit the notification bell if you want to see more updates from my channel, and also let me know in the comments if you want to see anything in particular on my YouTube channel, because I'm always open to requests. But thank you so much for watching this video today, and I'll see you in the next one.